everybody, what's going on? This is Dr. Jeff C. May, and you are listening to another episode of Doctor's Orders with Jeff C. May. Advice you should actually take. You guys, I think this is episode 39 of the podcast. Having fun with this because I get to sit in a room all by myself and listen to myself talk. I know. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous because you guys can share this and share the wealth this holiday season as you jump into it. But I do appreciate you guys listening. I do see the comments. I do see people's feedback as we hear it in the office and all of those things. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the show, and welcome to a pursuit, a passion of helping people become healthier, happier, and more productive. And ultimately, never going into a show with a script. This is just going to be from my heart, and we're talking a little immune system. So we're going to talk allostatic load. If that phrase doesn't mean much to you, it will by the end of this, and why you should never trust a doctor that is going with the group collective. What I mean by that is like what we see, like trusting the science, trusting the doctors, all of that propaganda. If you can't see through propaganda at this point in the game, I want you just to take a break. I want you to pause and just look at a few things. And I'm going to open up with this because when we jump into allostatic load, the purpose of when you listen to the show, you're going to pick up some things that you're going to do. And then if you do them, I guess maybe you're not going to do them, but if you do them, you'll get sick less often. And if you do come down with something, it's going to be short-lived. And I've been doing this for 15 years. And right now, I'm slightly under the weather, but I'm coming out of where I was out of the weekend because of these strategies that I want to share with you guys. And why is this so important? Do I make money off this podcast? I make a few cents for everybody who listens with some ads and doing those things. But this isn't putting food on the table. This isn't because I think, oh man, this is going to be great because we're going to sell so much. This is because if I don't get on here, if I don't do a podcast, then ultimately something is deeply disturbed in my heart, in my guts, whatever place you want to put it, in your soul. I don't know how you describe it, but I know I get uneasy. And it doesn't go away. That feeling doesn't go away until I put on the headphones, until I get behind the mic, until I hit record and say, okay, we're going to stream this live over to Facebook. I don't even know if people watch it. I hear people, they say things in their office and they see me on Facebook. It doesn't matter. I am not looking to be social media famous. I think that is a train wreck of a life. I do this because if I don't, there is a pit in my purpose where I can't, it's like an itch you can't scratch. And this is the only way I know how to do it. So thanks for being along for the ride. I appreciate your prayers. My team says they pray for me all the time, and I'll take it. Because it talks about how in Ephesians, it talks about like God gave you good works to do. Like there are things God gave you to do. And I believe that. I believe we have a purpose in that the gifts we've been given are to help serve one another and celebrate those gifts that we're given. And so I know that speaking is one of mine. I know that being able to speak to strangers, to groups of people, to do those things, like it excites me. Where a lot of people are scared to talk, like I relish in it. Like I love to be able to go and share from my heart without a script. And it's not as polished as some, and it is what it is. But ultimately, I hope it moves people into taking action and doing something for themselves. And that's my favorite part. So if this is hitting you already, just send me a message wherever you find me. Because it means the world. It means the world to hear it from people who listen and that it helps people. I'll tell you what, I don't know a lot about people who build huge businesses or do things or live a life on purpose, that whatever person you want to put out there. But I know that there's got to be some commonalities to where it feels lonely. It feels lonely at times because you're like, man, I don't know if anybody's hearing this. Like, how do I get the message out there more? And I was so grateful to receive some messages over Thanksgiving. One in particular from the best videographer and photographer that I know. And he'll probably listen to this episode and he knows who he is, Mr. Sherikoff Studios, the best guy around. And he sent me a message that it kind of, as you're walking through the house and you see it come up and you read it, and actually it was a voice message, and I listened to it and it kind of stopped me right in my tracks. And it was one of deep gratitude. So Uncle Steph, as I call you, thank you for that message. And as we get into the meat of the episode today, my first question in opening this up is, where did the flu go in 2020? Where did the flu go in 2020? And we'll see how long this live stream ends up on Facebook. But this is a little teaser because these are some of the conversations we're going to have in Advantage After Hours, a new program we're going to be launching here soon. So if you're listening out on the podcast, make sure you get us some sort of message that says, hey, I want the Advantage After Hours link, because it's going to be link only. This isn't going to be going on social media. But ultimately, when we look at the question of where did the flu go in 2020, and you can Google this, you can DuckDuckGo it, you can do whatever you need to, you'll probably land somewhere on Scientific America on how they're talking about in 2020, flu deaths were minimal. Were extremely minimal. We're talking, I think it was like 700 was the number. And it was fascinating. Yeah, because I'm looking at it as we look at this. Yes, it was like a drop in 97%. And then all of a sudden, like they're giving, so here's the crazy thing. Why did they say this in 2020? Because they shut down travel, because they told you to wear a mask. They told you to social distance from everybody. They told you to wash your hands and do all these measures. And they're giving those precautionary measures for the beer virus, they're giving that credit for dropping the flu deaths. Yet flu is also a respiratory virus. So they're saying no, flu was like circulating because people were going around. Well, my question to this is, well, why in the hell was the beer virus still rampant? Why were we still having that? And so if these measures were working, wouldn't they actually help prevent the beer virus from spreading? And yet it's still here. It's still here. People are still getting it. And so this episode isn't about the beer virus, and After Hours we'll clarify and all those things. But it's literally about questioning why you get sick, why you actually get sick, and why you stay sick. What if you were actually, most of the time through the year, you were actually leaning, if we were on a scale and you were slightly towards sick all the time, to where it took us one, if you can picture those scales, the old school scale. So like you put weight on one side and it kind of leans to that way, and then you put weight back on the other one and you want to balance them, like those balancing scales. What if you were actually leaning towards and you didn't even know it because you weren't at the symptomatic threshold? So there comes a point in almost every disease, every neuromusculoskeletal, most things where you get a symptomatic threshold met to where you actually start expressing symptoms. But most people and most doctors will probably agree that there's things happening before that threshold is hit. So you may not even experience a symptom, but you can have cancer. And until that cancer takes hold and you hit the symptomatic threshold, then all of a sudden things start showing up. Man, they're drastically dropping weight. There's no energy. There's some warning signs there. So what if throughout most of the year you didn't even realize, but that tipping of the scale, the balances, you are actually leaning towards sickness and disease. And it was more of a state. It didn't matter the name of it when you got there. It was just that you were in a state of dis-ease. You were no longer at ease. You see, ease is when you take oxygen in through your nose and your lungs pull it out, put it in the bloodstream. They dump carbon dioxide in, back into the lungs, and you exhale that. That's ease. Does anybody ever have to teach you how to breathe? No, because your body's pre-programmed, pre-wired for it. Your heart's beating. You don't have to tell it to do anything. You eat food, your stomach digests. Like all these things happen because that's the way it's designed. That's the way the body works. And so when we look at the term I open up the show with, what's called allostatic load. Allostatic load is think of it like a stress. So I'm going to give you an analogy. Now, I've heard this analogy before and I spoke on it. It's beautiful. So think about if you were treading water in a pool, okay? As you're treading water in the pool, there's always going to be allostatic load because we're under gravity, okay? Let's just talk about it like that. So you can think of allostatic load like stressors or stress. So as you're treading water and you have a backpack on, what happens when I start to put a rock in the backpack? And then I add another rock. See, eventually you can kind of maintain a few rocks. Depending on their weight, you're still going to keep your head above water. But little by little, as I add rocks, you slowly start to sink lower and lower in the water until ultimately you drown. That's what happens as we age. The allostatic load becomes too great for our bodies to bear any longer, and we expire. Now, that happens earlier for some and later for some. And a lot of it, we may not, if the allostatic load was you were crossing the street and a Jeep hits you and you die, you really can't control that. But when the allostatic load and stressor each and every day is the donut you eat for breakfast, you can control that. And I would challenge you to make a list of what can you control, what versus you can't control that is occurring in your life. And you'll find that the majority of things happen on the side of the things you can control. Welcome to what we call lifestyle disease. This is something I harp on every single time I get a microphone, every single time I get in front of a group of people, because over 70% of the time people are dying because of lifestyle choices. Which means, let's put this in another way. I'm going to give you a different way to look at it. It's because if we told each other this, I'm going to say it and then I'm going to go down the tangent. So here's another way to say it. Because of the choices you've made in your life, you're not going to live as long as you were supposed to. That's as blunt as I can get. That is hit you with an ugly stick, because that sucks. That means you look yourself dead ass in the mirror and you say, I killed myself. Like, my choices, I'm shaving time off my life. Look at your kids, look at your wife, look at your husband. Look at someone you actually like sincerely love. And I hope you get to the point of tears, and we drive this point home so deep, is because you look at them and you realize how much you love spending time with them, how much you love hearing their laughter, how much you love playing games, how your quality of life is so much better because they're in it and you're in their life. And now realize that time is fleeting. Like, there's only a set amount of that time, and it's like the sand in the hourglass, and it's going. But rather than knowing that even that in itself, time's going and all those things, it's like you reached in there and grabbed a handful of sand and then threw it out. It's like you're ditching moments and memories with your loved ones and the people that you care about the most, and they care about you the most, and you're throwing it away with eating those donuts, not exercising, forgetting like vitamins. You just want to sit and suck down the pharmaceutical cocktails. Like, all of these things add up, and that allostatic load, the rocks continue to pile up in the backpack, and they go and they go and they go until you drown. Now, my job, and sometimes I wonder why in the hell am I so passionate about helping take rocks out of people's backpacks, helping to teach them, hey, you can actually reach back there and pull that rock out. You can do things for yourself that decrease that allostatic load and actually improve your health and your function. And oh my gosh, along with that comes along your happiness and production. It's like, why wouldn't you want to do that? And so I look at this and I'm like, okay, I'm on that mission. And yet so much of it, like big pharma and insurance, like they play a role, but their role was well played out decades ago. And it turned into a massive friggin' business. And you know what their job is? Instead of taking rocks out of your backpack, they're on the side of the pool saying, no, you're okay. No, you're doing great. You feel amazing. Like, as long as you feel okay, you're okay. And your head, your nose, maybe just an inch above water. Just an inch above water. And they're like, nah, you're good. And yet you listen to this lie over and over and over again. And you realize that the United States is the only country that has drug commercials playing all the freaking time. I forget the stats even. It was ridiculous. Like, how many drug commercials are pushed out on us. And the United States absolutely sucks buttholes. Okay, I'm just going with this. You're getting a little taste of what the Advantage After Dark, that's what it is. Advantage After Dark season is going to be like, because we can't pull punches. If I say the word butthole and it hurts your feelings, well, for crying out loud, put a Band-Aid on it, okay? What I'm trying to tell you is that they'll convince you, okay? They convince us because we're on a chemical cocktail, because we're on a thing, and we're only an inch away from drowning, that we're okay because we feel good. Because we feel good. And we see this all the time. And it rolls out on my Facebook and my marketing campaigns and all these things. And I don't blame people when they come in with that mindset. I don't blame them. I just look at them. I'm like, man, you've been duped. Like, let's take a step back and let's look at this. When I have somebody on Facebook tell me that 9 out of 10 lower back pain problems come from the digestive tract, and I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I wasted 15 years in a career and, over $100,000 going to like university and graduate school and becoming a chiropractor and putting nearly 8 years in education in that, just for somebody online to tell me that 9 out of 10 problems are in your low back are just due to your digestive tract. That would have saved me a hell of a lot of money and time. I wish I would have just listened to that guy. Like you got to call the crap out. I'm not saying condemn the person. I'm saying condemn the lie, because big pharma and big insurance will always be on the side of the pool trying to tell you you're fine because you feel good, all while you have all these rocks in your backpack and you're about ready to drown. And for whatever reason, God put me on this earth to start pulling rocks out of people's backpacks and showing them better ways. And I put it to use. It's not like I go home and I smoke a pack of Marlboro Reds and a fifth of Jack. Like, let's look at this. Am I the picture perfect of health? I don't think that exists. But I would say we should all strive for something. There is no finish line when it comes to your health. We need to remember that. In fact, you should write that down. There's no finish line when it comes to your health. So why are we looking for a day we can quit? Why are we looking for a day we should just like take it easy and take it off? For crying out loud, you live in your body until you die. Why wouldn't you want to take care of it? I know sometimes I even go into my own house and I'm like, man, I want to pick up. And when I pick up, I feel better. Or when I clean the garage and then I park my Jeep in the garage, man, it just feels better. And yet we're walking around with trashed out bodies because of our own choices. And what happens if we would just even dedicate 1 year, 365 days? What if you dedicated 2023? And in fact, don't even wait till 2023. Whenever you listen to this, dedicate today. Start today, wherever it is. I don't care if it's 1:23 in the afternoon or 2:40 in the morning. Start today. And what happens if you just say, hey, today I'm going to start making better choices, and you're going to do better than yesterday. And then tomorrow, Lord willing, you wake up, there's air in your lungs, and you're going to say, I'm going to do better today than yesterday. And just do that. Forget the programs or which app I need to do or count my macros and all those things. And that may be a time and a place where that's where you're ready to go. But for a majority of people, do better than yesterday. And freaking stop whining about it. Just do better than yesterday. And if you mess up, forgive yourself, drop the guilt and shame, and just do better tomorrow. Just do better. Do better in the next 5 minutes. Okay, maybe it's minute to minute. I once heard from a former alcoholic and going through AA, it was like, it wasn't going through like how many days they could get sober. Sometimes it was like watching the clock and every 5 minutes. Next 5 minutes, I'm just going to be sober. Next 5 minutes, I'm going to be sober. Next 5 minutes. And eventually they got up to where each and every day they would stay sober. What if you need to do that for your health? What if you just need to, hey, for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to walk. Just for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to move my body. For the next 10 minutes, I'm not going to put sugar in my body. And then in the next 10 minutes, I'm not going to put sugar in my body. The next 10 minutes, I'm going to, you get the point. These are the things we want to drive home. Because at the end of the day, if we wait for the media to tell us how to live our healthcare, they're going to get it wrong. You know why? Because the media is not your friend. The media is bought and sold to sell a product. I've been doing it since the start of it. So if you really want to get healthy, you got to figure out your goals. You got to figure out, there's two things. This is where I'm going to wrap the show. You got to figure out where you want to go, and you got to figure out where you're at. And these two places are going to be 2 points on a map. And if you had 2 points on a map, you can always measure the distance. And if you can measure the distance, you can figure out a plan to cover that distance. So here's your strategy. You want to know how hard healthcare is? It's not hard. They lied to you because it's simple. Health is simple. You know why? Because you're wired for it. Here's your program for health. What do you want in your health? Sit down and write it down. I want to drop 20 pounds. Cool, great. I want to have more energy. Okay, cool, great. What does that mean? Well, it means I want to be able to wake up at 6 a.m. and go for a run. Okay, cool, great. Well, what are your goals? What do you want to look like naked in the mirror? Like all of these things. And I am not messing around. The more detailed, the more clear you can get, the better it'll be. So you figure out where you want to go. And then 2, you figure out where you're at. And hopefully it stings. Like it should sting a little bit because you got to be motivated. If you're happy with where you're at, then you know what? Don't do anything. Just stay where you're at. But for those people who want to make changes and want to make real changes and not have to buy another program come New Year's or join this group or do all those things and just drop all the bullshit and just actually get some results. This is what you do. So you figure out where you want to go and you figure out where you're at. And these two, just like 2 points on a map, there's going to be a distance in between them. And you're going to see the gap. You're going to see the gap that you have to traverse. And that's where you start making progress. You guys, if this doesn't hit home, let me know. If I sound like a madman on this podcast, let me know. Online, wherever you're watching this, if it resonates with you, let me know. And then finally, remember, if you guys want to get the link for the new up and coming, it's going to be kind of like a Zoom webinar each and every probably week, depending on some of the schedules. I'll let you guys know the details. But Advantage After Dark is going to be launching soon. So remember, do your homework, you guys. I appreciate you listening. And as always, remember, do the work because no one else is going to do it for you. And those are your doctor's orders.